Okay, so we are live and we are going to continue with the talking about the WordPress data layer. So we've done a few sessions about this topic and those sessions are available in YouTube. So we go to my channel here in the streams URL. You have the part 2, which is the previous one, and there's also the part 1 that is here. So you have there like the previous sessions. And what we've done so far is to talk about the WordPress data layer, and we've commented like, what is this? And in order to do that, we used this diagram to explain that in WordPress we have the block editor, which allow us to communicate with the REST API. And it, like the block editor, has internally a thing called the data layer. And what this thing does is that it centralizes a state that we can use from React. So all the information about the block editor is centralized in one place, and then from all React applications, we can interact with that information, with that state. That state is stored in stores, and there are several stores available in the block editor. Okay. So we have the core store, we have the blocks store, we have a few of them, and then we can also create our own custom stores. So this is the big idea about the data layer. We have different stores, and then we have two main elements to interact with those stores. We have selectors that allow us to get information from those stores. We can grab like a piece of information from that store, but then we can also modify that store. We can dispatch actions in order to modify the information in the store. So select to get information, dispatch actions to modify the information stored in the store. Okay. And then the data layer provides a few things that are especially interesting when we deal with data. So the first thing is that it automatically provides a security layer in the form of nonces. So every time we interact with the REST API, we have to provide a nonce. So WordPress can verify the origin of the request. If we do that manually, we usually have to take care of providing this nonce. But with the data layer, that nonce is automatically provided in behalf of us. Actually, the element that is making this happening, I mean, the element that is providing the nonce is a package called api-fetch. So api-fetch, I'm going to put this here in a specific box. Let me send backward and I'm going to add like a different color. Okay. So we have this here, we have this here, and this here, and then we are going to group this selection. Perfect. So we have this API fetch, and if we look for API fetch WordPress, this is the package, and I think that, yeah. So whenever we do, so this is something that we can also use outside of the data layer. This is the API fetch package is being used internally by the data package, which is let me find it. Here we have a list of all the packages, so it should be where is it? Here. So here we have the webs. Here we have the data package, which contains like the specific API we can use to create custom stores and interact with the stores that have been created with this API. For example, here we have the dispatch method, we have the select, and we have subscribe, and some others. So internally, when we create a store, the store that is created, it will use the API fetch. It will use this package to do the requests, and those requests will include the nonce because of this. So we could also use this API fetch to do requests to the REST API, and we can also leverage this library, its methods to take care of the nonces. But whenever we use a data layer to interact with the stores, that's transparent for us. We don't need to worry about that. But another thing that is interesting is the cache. Whenever we use the stores of the data layer, there is an internal cache that optimizes the request to the REST API. So the first time we do the request, the network request is done, but the second time the same request is done, is not going to do an extra request to the server because the information will be already in the cache. So that's pretty convenient, and that's something that is already built in the stores and the WordPress data layer. Perfect. So once we have done this introduction, let's get started with the project, or let's continue with the project. The project we started in the sessions before. So let me open cursor, and let me see if I can open the specific folder, which is this one. Yeah. Okay. So we have this here, and then we have this here. Okay, this project corresponds to this repository, this one, where you have like all the information of the streams that we have done this year. And there is a folder here called projects where you can find the current status of the project we've been building following the instructions in this course. So I'm going to log in here. And let me see. So internet is taking its time to do things. But I was okay. So to log in. In learn.wordpress.org. And we are going to continue with this project that is available here. And what we have so far is this. I'm going to start here. I'm going to put the font a bit bigger. Okay. Great. And then I can go to this page. I can go to the course and continue. So the last thing we did, let me check the code. So if we go to the projects folder, and go to the projects folder, WP data, we can launch the build process. Remember that we are using here a build process, which is managed by the WP scripts commands. So when we run npm start, we will be running WP scripts start, and this is an opinionated version of Webpack, which is going to do the following. Without any further configuration, it's going to look for files in the src folder. It's going to look for an index.js, and from here it's going to look for the imports and all the imports. So for example, here the index is importing the app is importing search control, and so on. So it's going to follow like the trace of imports. And with that information, it's going to build a bundle. So it's going to build a production ready version of our code. And that's happening just by doing npm start or WP scripts start. So we can remove this folder to see that this is being built automatically. Yeah, here we have the build folder. It's also another interesting thing. Look at this. Because WordPress internally already loads a lot of packages, what it's doing, this build process, is, for example, when we require WordPress element package, or later we require the WordPress components package or the WordPress data package, what it's going to do is it's going to internally associate these imports with the version that is already loaded in WordPress, which is the packages are loaded in the global WP object. So here we have WP data, we have WP core data, we have all these elements. So what is doing this build process is so we don't load 2 times the same package. Internally is smart enough to know that, okay, this is going to be executed in a WordPress environment. So instead of adding the code of those packages in the bundle, I'm going to just associate those imports with the packages that are already loaded in WordPress. So that's why you see this information here, external, this and this correlation. We have the build, and now what we can do is we can leverage WP now. This is a quick way of testing this. So we can go to projects again, we can go here, and what we can do is npx. I think this is going to be deprecated at some point, but for now it's working and it's good enough to try the project. And if we go to the dashboard, we should see here our menu option, which corresponds to what we have registered here in the plugin. So here we added a menu page called WP data layer app pages, which is this one. We injected this HTML, and with this ID, we are injecting our React application. So if we come here to the HTML, we should see here at some point, here we have pages and here we have the ID. So internally, we have like all the React application. And where are we doing that? Where are we injecting our React application? Where we are doing that here in the index. We are selecting the ID, the element with this ID, and in this element we are injecting our React application, which starts on the app component, and then from the app component we import some other components. So this is more or less the idea. And let's review the code of what we've done. Okay, so this code is what we just explained. We are importing a few things. We are importing the method we need to inject the React application. Then we are importing the main component or starting point component, which is app. And app, what it's doing is a few things. So here we are using useState to create a state variable called search term. Okay. So this variable search term is used, where is it used? On search control. And search control is a component that we have imported from WordPress components. Okay, so a quick reminder that the components, okay, if we go to the block editor, we have here like very useful information. And regarding components, here we have a link to the storybook where we have documented all the components we can use in React application, all the WordPress components. These components are the ones used in the block editor, but we can also use them for our own developments. So here, for example, we are using search control, and search control, if we come here, this is the component that we are using. We can see the documentation and an example of how to implement this component in our own developments. Great, so we have the search control and we pass the state variable and the function we can use to update that state variable. So we pass that. So every time we type here, every time we type here, the onChange method, or the method we pass as a value of the onChange property, is triggered. And that method is updating search term. So this box is updated with the updated value of search term. So this is how it works. So we can see the value reflected in the input, but we also have access to this search term here. And every time this term is updated, the React component is re-rendered. And it's important because every time this search term is updated, we have defined here a useSelect with a dependency, which is search term. So every time this value is different than previously, this function is going to be executed. So this is why this is interesting, because this is memoizing the results returned by this function. So the first time this search term appears here, this function is going to be executed and the value returned is going to be cached. So the second time, this function is not going to be executed. The useSelect is going to return the previously returned value for the same search term. Okay, but the first time we have query object, then we add the search term to that query object. Then we have a set of parameters that we are going to pass. So we have the post type, we have the page, and we have the query. And these arguments are going to be passed to the getEntityRecords. So the getEntityRecords is one of the selectors we mentioned previously. So here we mentioned that the selectors are the tools, the way we have to get data from the store. In order to do that, we select a store, then we apply a selector, and each selector can receive a specific number of parameters. And the information of these selectors is documented in the block editor handbook. So we can just come here, look for getEntityRecords, and in WordPress data, if we look for this, I think there should be, no, it's not here, because it belongs to this specific package. Yeah, getEntityRecords. And here we have the parameters that are accepted. So we can pass the kind, the name, and a specific query, which is going to be the same query object that we could pass to the internal REST API endpoint. So in order to know which elements we can use, which properties we can use in this object, we just need to check the documentation about the REST API endpoint, which is here. Yeah. We can check here. We have here all the endpoints. For example, in our case, we are requesting pages, the post type pages. So that information is here, is pages. And then well, let me check. This is the schema. these pages. Okay, so these are the arguments we can pass, and for example, we are using this one, search. Query.search is our search term, but we could also specify results per page, specific fields. Well, the order by, yeah, and we can also. So yeah, for this, for a request to this endpoint, we could use these arguments, which can also be used in the selector that internally is doing a request to the REST API. But here we are returning to properties pages and has resolved. So this is done in this way because we want to know not only the result of this request, but also when this request is in progress and when it has finished. Because with this information, with the has resolved, which is going to be true while this request is in progress and is going to be false when the request has finished and has returned a specific value, we are going to use this for pages list, which uses this has resolved to show a spinner. But that information, we get that information from this has resolved. So we have here a few selectors. We select the store core data, and we can use the getEntityRecords. We specify the kind, so the kind is post type, the specific type, which is page, and then the query. But then we can also do we can request information over the selection itself. So for example, we can use another selector called hasFinishResolution, and we can pass the specific selector and the arguments that we passed to this selector. These arguments are stored here. So that's how it works. And every time these elements, every time the state, the internal state of this stored core data store is updated internally, and it affects any of the properties returned by this useSelect, this function is going to re-return the updated values. So we can say this in another way. Every time we use select, we subscribe to changes in the store. So every time there is an internal change in the store that affect the values returned, we return the updated values, which means that these values get, these variables get new values, and the React component is re-rendered with the updated values. So that's why React is so cool, because of all of these internal workflows that allow us to focus just in the data, and once the connections are done, everything works as expected. So we just need to focus on updating the source of truth, which is going to be the store. But then with those connections, the React components will react to those changes. Like for example, using useSelect. With useSelect, we subscribe to the core data store, and whenever there are changes that may affect this specific set of arguments, this function is going to be is going to return the updated values. Perfect. So we have that search control, and then we go to pages list, which is this. Let's not forget that we are talking about this. We have a search box. Every time we type, let me check. Okay, so as you can see, every time that I type, there is a new network connection because it's triggered every time I type a new character. And in the payload, we can see that the search is doing like the search property. It is going to contain every word that we are building here. But the second time is not going to do a request because the information is already cached. So the first time we do a selection, we do a request to the REST API, but the second time it will be already cached here, so we don't need to do any other requests. Okay, and then we have a modal, and then we have the edit page form. So this pages list, pages list. Yeah, this is the one. We received the pages that have resolved. The pages are being displayed here in a table, and then the has resolved is used for the spinner. But then in the here in the results, for every row we have an edit button, which is this one, page edit button. There is this one, and every time we click, so we pass the ID because that information is available in the objects that are in the objects contained in the array, in the pages array. And with that ID, we can open a modal, and we can open another React component called edit page form, which is this one. And with edit page form, we get more information from the stores. So we have the page ID. That's the only data we need to get more information. So previously we used getEntityRecords in plural, but now we can get individual information of a specific entity. And in order to do that, we use getEntityRecord. We pass the kind, the type, and then the ID of the entity. And with that, we get all the information for that specific page, and we build the UI with that information. So this is what's happening when we do this. Let's create a few more pages. So we have contact. We can create, okay, let's create this here, about. Perfect. Now we have here all these extra pages. Okay, so let's continue with the course. We are here editing WordPress data records. We got this form. So if we come here, we can see that we can edit contact and we can change the page title. Okay, so this is, I think that this is where we stopped doing the code, and we need to continue from here. So we can display the information, but we cannot modify the information. So let's see what we can do. Okay, so we have the information of the specific entity. But then we need to make the page title field editable. So it says there's one problem with our page title field. You can't edit it. So it receives a fixed value, but doesn't update it when typing. We need an onChange handler. You may have seen a pattern similar to this one in other React apps. It's known as a control component. Okay, so now we are going to use an action. Remember that we mentioned that selectors, I'm going to put this bigger, an action. Selectors are used to retrieve information, and actions are used to modify information of the store. So updating entity records in Gutenberg data is similar, but instead of using set title to store in local component level, we use the edit entity record action, which stores the updates in the Redux state. So we okay, so here's how you can try it in your browser DevTools. Okay. As we mentioned before, all the packages are available in the WP local global object. So if we come here and we open the console, we can, let me make this bigger. Here we can see different packages. I think that core data is another package that we have available, and what we can do is get the information of a specific page ID. If we check let me do something. I'm going to display console log pages list in the page edit button, which is here. I'm going to console log page ID. Yeah. So these are the page ID of the pages. So let's take, for example, the 9 one. And we can do this. Let's check, because we have already done this selection, there shouldn't be any extra network requests. So if we do this here, pages, okay, well, this specific selection we haven't done it before, so that's why there's a request. But if we do the one we use here in edit page form, this one, for example, sample page, we do this, we go to network, we clean, and if we do this const page data. Okay, select is not defined because the select method is available in the data package. Core data store is not defined because we need to, I think it's core data. So this is a variable that contains the namespace, so we can just use the namespace. GetEntityRecord is not a function because the, okay, let me display here. Console log core data store. It's core. It is not core data. It's core. Okay. So the first time there has been a network selection because the selection is done when we click, but the second time we should have page data. Page data should contain the information we want. Okay, so we were checking that. Let's string. Perfect. So now I have this more accessible. Where were we? We want to access this information. So we use the select method to select the specific store. Then we use the getEntityRecords, post type page, and we get a list of all the pages. And for the first one, we get the ID. If we go to page ID, we should have the 9. I'm going to remove the console log and also the console log. Perfect. So once we have the ID, what we can do is dispatch an action using that ID. For example, we can update the title. So let's come here. And in the same way we have select, we have dispatch, which are like the main methods to interact with the stores. So these methods start by selecting a specific namespace. In this case, we select the core namespace, which is, if we go to data, what is this here? Is this one. Here we have the selectors and the actions that can be dispatched. For example, we are using this one, edit entity record. Yeah, edit entity record. So we pass the kind, the specific type, the element, the entity, and then the properties we want to update. So in this case, we dispatch the information. And so let's continue. If at this point you may ask, how is edit entity record better than useState? So it says, we can save the changes as easily as we retrieve the data and ensure that all caches will be correctly updated. The changes applied via edit entity record are easily undoable via the undo and redo actions. Lastly, because the changes live in the Redux state, they are global and can be accessed by other components. For example, we could make the pages list display the current edited title. to the last point, let's see what happens when we use getEntityRecord to access the entity record we just updated. Okay, so let's come here and let's do this. Okay, so this is the page ID. Okay, so it's not showing the updated title. Let's continue reading. It doesn't reflect the edits. What's going on? Well, pages list renders the data returned by getEntityRecord. If getEntityRecord reflected the updated title, then anything the user types in the text control would be immediately displayed inside pages list too. This is not what we want. The edits shouldn't leak outside the form until the user decides to save them. Gutenberg data solves this problem by making a distinction between entity records and edited entity records. Okay, so let's I think that I have, let me look for a diagram that I think can help us to understand this. Give me 1 second. I think this one. We have this, and then we have this. Okay, so we have getEntityRecord, which is the selector that gets the data directly from the REST API. But then internally we have every time we update, we can update the data like at a store level. And so, okay, let me see. Okay, so we have this, we have this. Then we have this. Okay. I'm going to remove this. This is data layer. Okay, let's focus just on the core store. This is a piece that can be, I'm going to make this. So we can use the edit entity record. We can use the edit entity record to update a piece of the store. In this case, imagine this is the original one, and we are editing with a new value. New title. whenever we use getEntityRecord, we are going to read from that. No, whenever we okay, so this is like the persisted. This is the one that comes from the REST API. Okay. This is the one that comes from the API. This, and this is come here. And this is the one that we have edited. Okay. Whenever we use the getEntityRecord, I'm going to make this bigger because I want to. I'm going to make this bigger. Okay. So whenever we use getEntityRecord, we are getting the information from the REST API. We get the information from the REST API, and we getEntityRecord is the returning the value. But whenever we edit that information in a space apart. So this information is not accessible by getEntityRecord. In order to access this edited value, we need to use another selector, which is getEntityRecord. We access this with getEntityRecord, and we access this one with getEntityRecord. In order to persist this information, which is going to do this. Let me put this. Well, and then we are going to also do this. So in order to persist the data, we can use another action that is called how is this called? It's called save edited entity record. So if we do save edit entity record, what we do is persisting this information in the database. So we do a request to the REST API with a post and with actually updating this data. And then this new data is stored here. And then when we get entity record, we will get the updated value. So let me see if I can improve this, this information. We have here this, have this here. Okay. Then we can edit. And then we can also save the edited entity record. Whenever we do this, what we do, I'm going to do is duplicate this, and I'm going to simplify this. Okay. Okay, I think it's a bit more clear now in this way. So we have an initial retrieval of the information, which is stored in the specific store. Then when we do get entity record, we get that information. We can edit the entity record, but that information is updated in a place apart. So the get entity record will get all the time the original information. In order to access the editing information, we can use get edited entity record. But if we want to persist the information here, we can use save edit entity record, which is going to take this edited value, is going to do a request to the REST API, is going to persist the information in the database, and then is going to retrieve that information again, will update the store, and then from then the get entity record will return the updated value. So this is more or less what's going on here. So pages list returns the data returned by get entity record. If get entity record reflected the updated state, there's a distinction between entity records and edit entity records. Entity records reflect the data from the API and ignore any local edits, while edited entity records also have all the local edits applied on top. Both coexist in the Redux state at the same time. We have get edited entity record, updated title. So let's check this. We have get entity record that returns this one, but then we got get edited entity record that returns the updated value, updated title. Okay. As you can see, the title of an entity record is an object, but the title of an edited entity record is a string. Okay. Okay, so we can now update edit page form accordingly. We can access the actions using the dispatch, the useDispatch hook, similarly to how we use useSelect to access selectors. So edit page form. edit page form, which is this one. The issue we were having is that we can display the value, but we cannot modify it. So now what we are going to do is we are going to get the page. We're going to get the page using the useSelect hook, which now is going to return the edited entity record. Okay, so to be more precise, the get edited record is going to do this. Is going to do this. Is going to do this. Yeah. So it's going to check any edited values, but if there is no edited value, it's going to return the original one. So we can use directly edited entity record. If there has been some edits, it will return the edited values, but if there hasn't been any edit, it will return this this value. Yeah. So we can use here directly get edit entity record instead of entity record. We can use get edited entity records. And now we can use this patch and use dispatch. We need to import it. So we have useSelect, which is the hook we can use to subscribe to the stores and to get information from the stores. And then we have useDispatch, which allows us to dispatch actions. And what we are doing here is to get the specific method we can use to edit the entity record, because this method is the one we are going to pass to the onChange. Where are we going to pass this? Yeah, to the onChange. Yeah. Okay. So what we're going to build here is a custom function called onHandleChange that will receive the title, and it will update the entity record with edit entity record. Whenever this value changes, this useSelect will return the updated value, and the React component will be rendered with the updated information. So we can do that, and then copy, paste this. So now what we have is previously we had this, we had just the label, the value, but then we are going to also use the onChange. We are going to also pass a value to the onChange property of text control, which will be handleChange. And the rest, I think, is the same. Yeah, it's the same. We are just passing this. Now we can do this. We are getting this. Okay, because I think we also need to get the entity records here. Let's continue. Okay, we added an onChange handler to keep track of edits via the edit entity record action, which is this one. And then changed the selector to get edited entity record so that page title always reflects the changes. This is what we saw this. So if we edit, we update internally the specific property, and with get edited entity record, we get both the edited values and the original values. Perfect. So we added an onChange handler to keep track of edits via the edit entity record, and then changes what it looks like now. So now we can edit. But it's not reflected here, but it's reflected here. So we need to change something here. But before we move on with this page, let's what is the advantage of using edit entity record over useState? So useState is an internal state of the component, and edit entity record is interacting with the store. That means that any React component using that that value will get the edited value. So the advantage is the user can undo and redo the edits. The edits can be easily displayed in other components, and the edits can be saved with a single function called to save edited entity record. This is here. So if we save edited entity record, we can persist those changes. How to get the page record reflected the unsaved title with get edit entity record. Okay. How to get the page record reflecting the last saved title with get entity record. So saving the form data. Now that we can edit the page title, let's also make sure we can save it. In Gutenberg data, we save changes to the WordPress REST API using the save edited entity record action. It sends the request, processes the result, and updates the cached data in the Redux state. Here's an example you may try in your browser DevTools. Okay, so let's do this. We can come here. So the 9 is the about. We have the edit entity record, and then we can persist the changes. Yeah, you can see that React component reacted to that change. And then if we go to network, we can see how there's been a post request with the updated title, and then there's been a get request updating that information. And also if we come here in the core, save entity record start, save entity. So we are tracking the progress of these actions, but then receive items. yeah, the getEntityRecords returns the updated values, which are here. Where are entities, records, post type, page, query data, where is this? Yeah, we can see how now the state reflects the updated value. Great. So the above snippet saved a new title, and like before, getEntityRecord now reflects the updated title. WP data select core get. Okay, so now we can see how getEntityRecord here, it now returns the updated title, the new title. Great. Great. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. Entity records are updated to reflect any saved changes right after the REST API request is finished. This is what the edit page form looks like when with a working save button. Okay, so in the edit page form, which is this component, we have. Okay, so now we can do. So now every time we save, we want to persist the data. Okay. I know. We want to do save edited entity record. And then handle save. Okay, so let's try this. If we come here and we edit, and we about save, great, and this is updated. It works, but there's still one thing to fix. The form modal doesn't automatically close before we never call on save finished. Okay, like for us, save edited entity record returns a promise that resolves once the save operation is finished. Let's take advantage of it in edit page form. Okay, so we can handle save. We can create an async await. It's a promise, and whenever this promise is fulfilled, whenever this action is done, we can call on save finished, which is the method that we can use to close the modal. Right? If we go to pages list, on save finished is close modal, exactly. Great. So let's come here, and now contact sample page, Great. Now the modal is automatically closed. Handle errors. We optimistically assume that a safe operation would always succeed. Unfortunately, it may fail in many ways. The website can be down, the update can be invalid, and the page could have been deleted by someone else in the meantime. Okay, to tell the user when any of these happens, we have to make two adjustments. We don't want to close the form modal when the update fails. The promise returned by save edited entity record is resolved with an updated record only if the update actually worked. When something goes wrong, it resolves with an empty value. Let's use it to keep the modal open. Okay, so let's copy and paste this. We were in edit page form. Okay, so we are, instead of just triggering the dispatching the action, we are also storing the result of this action in a variable, which is updated record. So if this returned value is empty, that means that the operation was not successful. So we can use that to only close the modal if the operation was successful. And now we can display an error message. The specific, the failure details can be graphed using the getEntityRecord and getLastEntitySaveError selector. So if we do this, if there, as there hasn't been any error, we don't get nothing. But we can, in the same way we here in the app used the has resolved, we can use the last error in the edit page form. So here in the select, now we can do the following. Instead of just returning the page, we're going to return an object with two properties, page and last error. The page is the same information we were returning, but now we are adding a new property that will ask about the operation of saving the updated data. So we remove this, that is the old version. And then if there is an error, we can display somewhere. Where can we put this text control? I'm going to put this here temporarily. Just below the, yeah. Okay, so now we are aware of errors. Let's see that error message in action. We'll trigger an invalid update and let it fail. The post title is hard to break, so let's set a date property to -1 instead. That's a guaranteed validation error. So we can, the page ID, we are updating and now if we come here, Great, we have here our error. And we can restore to the previous version because this was just to force the error. How to get the last error associated with saving the page with this selector. Great. Status indicator. There is one last problem with our form, no visual feedback. We can't be quite sure whether the save button worked until either the form disappears or an error message shows. We're going to clear it up and communicate two states to the user. Saving and no changes detected. The relevant selectors are is saving entity record and has edits for entity record. Unlike getEntityRecord, they never issue any HTTP request, but only return the current entity record state. Because the has edits for entity record is done internally in the store, and the is saving entity record in our case, saving entity record. Yeah, this is just checking that the request is done, so there's no additional request to do here. Great, so we can add more properties to our useSelect here. We have these new properties that are going to look like this. We can now use is saving and has edits to display a spinner when saving is in progress and grey out the save button when there are no edits. So in the on-click handle save, yeah, if is saving, we will display a spinner with the word saving, and if it's not saving, it will just have the save. And also we will disable the button here if there are no new edits, okay? Because every time we persist, every time we persist the data, this gets removed. So I'm going to so we save the edit entity record, we update the REST API, we update the store, then this page disappears, which means that has edits this will be false, as this for edit entity record will be false. Okay, now that we disable the save button when there are no edits and when the page is currently being saved, this is to prevent the user from accidentally pressing the button twice. Also, interrupting a save in progress is not supported, so we also conditionally disabled the cancel button. Yeah, so the cancel button. Now if we go update, okay, spinner is not defined because we need to import the spinner, which we have previously used. I think it was here in pages list. We can just copy and paste here. Yeah, we can see the spinner and perfect. Okay, wiring it all together. Next lesson. Now creating new WordPress data records. In the previous part, we created an edit page feature. In this part, we will add a create page feature. Here's a glimpse of what we're going to build. Add a create new page button. Let's start by building a button to display the create form, similar to an edit button we have built in the part 3. So create page button and create page form. Okay. Page edit button. I think that. Okay, let's create a page edit. So we have here we have useState that we're using it here. We have a button and modal, and we have edit page form. Perfect. So page edit button. Now we are going to exactly. We are importing page edit button from here. Let's do a quick so we have our app. We have our app. App calls pages list. Then pages list using page edit button. Page edit button. Then page edit button uses edit page form. Well, actually, this is like this. This is okay. This and this. Great. What else? We have edit page form, page edit button, pages list, and app. Okay. And now what I want to create is a new create page button. This is what I want to do. Edit page button and create page button, which is going to be very similar to the other one. I'm going to export it. And they use this patch. Okay, we don't need it for now. And the text control here, we also don't need it here. So create page button is going to, in the same way we have edit page edit button, no, say page button create, and then page button edit. Yes. So in pages list, we have page button edit. Page button edit. And then we have page button create. And page button create is this. And then we have edit page form and create page form. We can also call this page form edit and page form edit for const. And then this page form edit page form edit. Okay, a bit better because now it's ordered in this way. Let's see if this still works. Okay, we should have changed. Okay, so we have here pages list, and pages list is working well. Then pages list have page button edit, which is here. Okay, so it's somewhere here. If we go to page button edit, yeah, page button edit. About. Great. And now we're going to create page button create. Now the create page button will be displayed besides the search control. So if we go to app, we can do this and then we can create page. No, this is a page button create. Okay. Page button create. Actually, a name that I like more is button create page. So I'm going to make a quick edit here. Button create page. I think it's better. Yes. And if we come here, this is going to be button create page. And in the app, we are going to button create page. Yeah, I like that more. Button edit, I'm going to call this button edit page. So if we come here, this is going to look like this. Button edit page. This is called button edit page is called in here. Button edit page. If we go to our app, this is not working because create page form doesn't exist. So file to exclude build. Okay, because create page form. Create page form. Okay. Now if we go to the app, yeah. Okay, so this works. We have button create page, button edit page, page form edit, and pages list. Okay, that looks better to me now, because now button create page is this one. And when we click, we will display create page form in the same way that when we click here, we display this modal. So it will be a similar model. So now that the button is in place, we can focus entirely on building the form. This tutorial is about managing that data. So we will not build a complete page editor. Instead, the form will only contain one field, post title. Luckily, the edit page form we built in part 3 already takes us 80% of the way there. The bulk of the user interface is already available. We will reuse it in the create page form. Let's start by extracting the form UI into a separate component. So edit page form. Okay. So we are going to create a page form. Page form. Yes. okay, which is we are extracting the form here to make it more generic. So then the edit page form edit in our case, can be as simple as removing all of this and replacing this with this. And then we need here page form and a spinner, and this will not be there. And the page form will import all of this. Okay, so this still works. Now we can build a create page form leveraging this this form more generic. Okay, the only thing that create page form component must do is to provide the following 7 properties needed to render the page form component. We need to pass the following properties: title, on change title, has edits, last error, is saving, on cancel, on save. Let's see how we can do this. So we are going to create page form, or in our case, page form create. We're going to page form create. And we are going to call this page form create. Page form create, which will receive the elements from the modal cancel, and on save finished will close the modal. Then we have an internal state to manage the title and to modify the title, and then the handle change will update the title. How to store the edits before a page record is saved with the useState React hook, which is local. Okay. In the edit page form, we dispatched the save edited entity record action to save the edits that lived in the Redux state. In the create page form, however, we do not have any edits in the Redux state, nor we do have a page ID. The action we need to dispatch in this case is called saved entity record, without the word edited in the name. And it accepts an object representing the new entity record instead of page ID. The data passed to a saved entity record is sent via a post request to the appropriate REST API endpoint, for example, dispatching the following action. So we can do this. If we come here to our app, we can do wp data dispatch core test. If we go to network, we can see we have done a post. And if we go to the Redux store, to the core store, we finish resolution, action. create post type. So we test. Let's check the test. Okay, this is the 9. Receive items. Okay, no. Finish resolutions. Here we have the permissions. Okay, at some point we save entity record finish. Post type page. Okay, we should see some point an action with test. Receive items. Okay, so I cannot find it, but anyway, let's continue. Okay, it triggers a post request endpoint with a single field in the request body title test. Let's check the request. If we go to network, yeah, we can see here the title test. Okay, so the post request is done. And then in the is returning the same ones. We have sample page, we have contact, and we have close. So it's not being returned. Let's see what's going on here. Now that we know more about save entity record, let's use it in create page form. Okay, so we have save entity record, and then we have handle save. Let's go to create page form. Create page form, or page form create. And then page form. There is one more detail to address. Our newly created pages are not yet picked up by the pages list. Accordingly to the REST API documentation, the WP v2 pages endpoint creates post requests pages with a status draft. Okay. By default, but return get requests pages with a status publish. Okay, so it's not here, but it should be here. Yeah, here we have it. so we need to specify the status. We want this to be published. So handle save. Publish. This is the page form create, but we need to, this is not explained here. Modal, page form. Okay, so let me see. If we go to pages list, when we click the button edit page, it's going to, but the button create page here, page form create, okay. So let's, let's clear the console, create a new page, and then we have save. Great. Great. So we have specified publish. Perfect. And now we need to also get information about how the process went. So the edit page form retrieved the error and progress information via the get last entity save error and is saving entity record selectors. In both cases, it passed the following three arguments: post type, page ID. In create page form, however, we do not have a page ID. What now? We can skip the page ID argument to retrieve the information about the entity record without any ID. This will be the newly created one. The useSelect call is thus very similar to the one from edit page form. So we can do this in create page form, which in our case is page form create. We have useDispatch, and here we have useSelect, and we can return this, which will be used in the page form as this information. So we retrieve in the hook, in the useSelect, we retrieve the information of the new, the latest new entity created, and the entity is this one, the latest page created, and we can get information about the process, the creation process. We can check if there were any errors, or we can check if the process is in progress. So with this in mind, we can go to our application, create a new page, and we have the same, the spinner and so on. Great. Okay, so I'm going to be finishing. Let me check so wiring all together, this is what we have. Great. And there's only thing pending, which is deleting WordPress data records. And then I think there are some, we can add notifications, so we can have a part 4 of these sessions. And I think there were like some challenges. Yeah, here are a few ideas. Okay, so we can do another session about this. We can cover the deletion of our records, and then if we have time, we can try to tackle some of these ideas. Great. So I'm going to stop here. The recording will be available in my YouTube channel, and yeah, see you in the next session. I think that in the next one we will finish this project and we should be able to tackle some of these challenges. Okay, so see you.